In the United Kingdom, hiring someone simply because of their protected group status without regard to their performance is illegal. However, the law in the United Kingdom does allow for membership in a protected and disadvantaged group to be considered in hiring and promotion when the group is underrepresented in a given area if the candidates are equal of merit. Excuse me, if the candidates are of equal merit, in which case membership in a disadvantaged group can become a tiebreaker.
So that's how affirmative action works itself out in the UK.
That shit. So they're saying they can't just give
They're
you the
saying what
kid.
Chris Rock said.
What did Chris Rock say?
Chris Rock said you should just be able to. I don't want to just to hire. And paraphrasing something along the lines of like, I don't. You shouldn't just be able to hire any old person just because they're black. But if it's close, it should go to us.
I
Us
remember
meaning
that.
you.
Sure,
I
sure,
was speaking as Chris Rock. Badly.
sure. But you're Italian, so it's all good. You close enough.
Oh,
You close enough. You don't have it that great in the white folk.
You know what? I think to a certain extent, G, I think that affirmative action does serve a purpose. You know, enforcing people to give equal opportunities, but I don't know how secure I would be somewhere knowing I just got hired because I was a black dude. You follow what I'm saying?
Elaborate. Go further.
Okay,
What would happen if you got hired just because you're a black dude? What makes you bothered by it?
let's say, you know what, not necessarily me personally, but my coworkers, my peers. I wouldn't want them looking at me like this motherfucker don't even deserve to be here because you know more often than not when you get a job that comes up, there are people that are already within that system that may want that position, and they may very well be worthy of that position. But then you get a guy that comes in just because I'm African American and I get the job, that can cause some animosity.
True. I guess the employees
That, that,
could be.
that can cause some animosity. You know, I've seen it before. I've heard people say it before.
would it bother you just personally as a man?
As a man, you know what, man? Not really,
Okay.
because I feel like that we've undergone so much in this country, dog, that we get through a layup every now and then, dude. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know,
I mean, I guess that's the whole
and I
premise.
wouldn't want to say because I'm one of those people that and I do believe this, and this is what I preach to my kids when they were younger. We can't be comfortable with mediocrity, bro. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be comfortable with mediocrity, bro. I think that we should all push ourselves to the maximum when we can, and
Sure.
not just get by with doing the minimum. Because I always, always challenge myself every day, because even with my own business, am I really doing enough? Or am I spinning my wheels? You feel what I'm saying?
Definitely spinning your wheels sometimes.
You know, I think we all do to a certain extent. I think that's the challenge of trying to be great at something.
True. True.
You know, I think you have to,
I think greatness really comes down to simplicity.
because,
The
I
greatest
remember
things are the simplest things. And
what you,
sometimes we want to make them complex, but really they're really streamlined ideas that people can keep up with. The greatest things, at least, the most impactful things.
what,
Yes, it's the new way to solve the simplest problem around.
Yeah.
Typically,
G, think about this. You remember when when I attempted to start the first streaming platform, right?
Yeah.
You remember I was about 15, 20,000 into it when you came in there and told me some shit I didn't really want to hear. And
Yeah. You almost cussed me out about that shit too.
I was trying not to acknowledge it because I spent all this money, but you were right. But had I not went through that phase I went through before, I would have never met the partners that I have now. I definitely learned a lot about that, about streaming. You feel what I'm saying? About
Yeah.
building a platform. And it was a lesson. I felt almost like people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to schools, dude, to learn something, right?
It's true.
I feel like that's what it was just me applying my trade, bro.
No, that's all good. Pete, where did you always honest? Where are you at with affirmative action?
I think there's a lot of counterintuitive, unintended consequences to it. It's like people have almost default to an initial impression of like the economics of things like backwards. So like in the U.S. standard is different. Like in college admissions, for example, there's like affirmative admissions for colleges where it's like even went to the Supreme Court where it's like you can. It was the University of Texas that had that actual case. So if you people are going to tend to do the bare minimum for whatever it is that they want to do, you know? So if you lower the bare minimum for everybody and it accommodates 4%, then 96% of the remainder have lowered their performance standard.
Mhm.
And that's bad for the whole.
Exactly.
So I think that there's a certain unintended consequence to that isn't good.
Territory.
Yeah.
But you understand why it's a necessity.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, otherwise,
For sure. It goes back again to my point earlier. You fostering mediocrity. You're telling one group you have to be up here to get in here, but then you tell another one just because you're this, we're going to let you in. It's like I look at the universities with football, for example. Chris has scholarships to Stanford, Notre Dame. Eventually wound up choosing USC. But think about this, bro. There were so many kids that I knew whose parents I would talk to that had like 4.2 GPAs. How do you get a 4.2 GPA? That's incredible.
You have AP classes.
Yeah, but he's not allowed.
4.6.
He's not allowed. Don't get me wrong. Chris was a great student, right? But he didn't have a 4.2 GPA. He 3.9 guy, right? But he was able to get into these institutions based on his ability to play a sport. And I think it's all, and I think as a society, what we need to do, we need to stop crying and bitching about everything. Life is not fair in itself, dude. There's always going to be somebody born better looking. It's always going to be somebody born better talented. You feel what I'm saying? There's going to have all these things over you.
All that stuff is subjective, though.
Yeah, but it's up to you to make yourself great. You think about it like this. Think about some of our greatest artists of this time, our greatest producers, directors, and actors, actresses. They're not necessarily the most talented people in the world all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, what they say, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think that's the expression.
All day. I see plenty of NBA and NFL
and
players walking around now.
You coach. I remember you was coaching like Pee Wee football for a while, and I know you've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, that can get trumped by like nepotism, where it's not what you know, it's who you know as well.
Which is the true racism.
So
nepotism is the true.
Is it really though?
Yeah, I mean,
so
the way we feel about racism is a lot more rooted into nepotism on a global scale, right? It's really who you see yourself in. I mean, that is really, if you think about, like, first off, no ceilings, GL, you know what I'm saying? Peter in the spot like normal. My big brother and contributor to No Ceilings more often than not is Big Still in the house. But what I was saying is, I forgot my train of thought. I must be losing my mind.
Talk about nepotism.
Oh, nepotism, right? So it's who you see yourself in. And when you really think about it more and more, right? You most people do things out of these really selfish reasons, right? Like, people have kids for all the most selfish reasons. If you listen to people talking about having kids, I want to leave a little part of myself on earth, as if you was that great in the first place.
And then they talk about how selfless parenting is when they did it all for themselves.
But that's the truth. The truth is, it's the most selfish thing going into it, but you come out the most selfless motherfucker if you did it right. It's always the most selfish shit going into it. Oh, we need a product of our love, or I need to leave a little piece of myself. That it'd be all selfish reason going into it, and then you come out that motherfucker totally forgetting who you are.
Man, you have kids based on your own vanity, dude, because you want to see a version of yourself you want to live on.
Hands down, yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is so. I think.
But I want grandkids now. I want grandkids. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you like, I want to see my next generation. What these little niggas look like? I made all these. So what I'm saying is, when you say nepotism, that's the way we feel about racism is more nepotism. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's who you see yourself in. Because, like, I always have this conversation, like, I always say the whitest white man is either, I wanted to say English, but I'm starting to think Spaniard. I think Spanish people are super, they're super, like, super underratedly when it comes to
Oh man,
colonizing shit. You know what I mean? And taking their culture and like making their culture be the like it's a lot more accepted. Like you go to Mexico and they're like super celebrating like that Spaniard shit. Like we don't quite celebrate the English shit to me as much as when you go to a
Yeah.
lot of the Spanish countries, they celebrate the oppressor a lot more. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
like America, like they fought I give these white folks credit over here. They were like, nah, we gonna even though they stole all the names of their towns, like York, tried to make a new York, you know,
Well, that was also before they broke off. We
yeah,
didn't rename all the shit.
yeah,
That was
we was
probably the
lazy.
problem.
It's like, yeah, exactly. It was like, hold up, y'all don't want to pay us and y'all just stole our names. You know what I'm saying? You want to make a new version of this. Like, so long story short, I think nepotism is a lot of times, but that's also the problem. Back to the point, still, I was saying if an Englishman had a black son and then he had to hire a white, another English white man or his son, I don't give a fuck what his son looked like. Most likely his son would get the job. Now you
and
do
I
got
don't think there's nothing wrong with that. See, I don't think there's nothing wrong with nepotism.
but that's my point. So that's why I say the way we feel about racism is really an incomplete thing. As far as not the see, most people think of racism as somebody calling you a nigger. I don't think about that. You just a bigot asshole.
Man,
You're
if
gonna
that was
get us
it, dude.
deplatformed. Watch your language.
Oh yeah, you can, and AI picks it up. They do. So but I was saying that I think that's the point. I think it's how you see yourself. And I think if it's between an Englishman getting a job, two English, like an Englishman, if an Englishman owned a business and an Englishman and a Spanish man wanted the job, he hired an Englishman. If it was between a Spanish man and an Irish man, maybe the Irish man. If it's between a Spanish man and an Italian man, maybe the Spanish man. If it's the Italian man, and it's going to keep going further away to what he sees in himself.
And
Okay,
that's like brings up.
go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
I'll say it brings up a couple of interesting points. Like one of them is it's interesting how now you see, and I don't want to go into it because I'm not trying to go that way, but gender is a social construct. And you can be transgender, but race is biological. You can't be transracial.
That's
It's totally inverse. Race is a
Yeah.
social construct because if we took the way it's all scale and scope of region, you know. So if you took this same conversation, just kept it within Europe in the year 1400, and a French guy moved to London and tried to get a job, no one's gonna hire him because he's fucking French, and we hate those fucking people, and vice versa.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree with you, and I think that's one of my partners from Florida, man. Shout out to that nigga.
Now that's me.
About that, man. He was really putting a lot of pressure on me to make sure I remember that race is a social construct. Like it's weird because they're trying to make race a biology thing, and really sex is actually the only certainty.
You can be half white and half black. You really can't be half whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's
for sure these people
there's more multiples and variables and all kinds of different schematics in that.
Well, gee, answer this question, Peter. You chime in too. As you know, we're scaling a digital soapbox. We're growing the company. We're going in different directions. You know, we got a TV channel launching and all this, right? Now, let's say it's 2026, right? 2027.
That was just a cold, strong flow.
All right. Let's say it's 2000, and the company is worth $500 million, close to $1 billion, right? We went public. It's a huge company, bro. And we're competing with the best. Like we up there with ABC, ESPN, and all these other platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
It comes time to name a new president for the company. Now, Chris, a degree from journalism from University of Southern California, all this probably don't been working with me for a few years at this point. You think I would give a damn about somebody being mad because I should have got that job over Chris? I was more qualified than Chris was. You know, you think I would give a fuck? That's my son. Think about it. Or your niece may come in. You know, we talk about hiring your niece for certain stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I make her Chris's administrative assistant. People don't know some of those admin jobs are six-figure jobs, right? Six-figure salaries come attached to it. Now, just imagine the girl that's been working, just imagine the young lady that might have been working with me for the past 8-9 years, whatever, right? She may feel some kind of way. And now he bring his lazy ass son in here that don't do shit. He brought his friend's niece in here. She don't do nothing. All they do in there is laugh and joke and giggle. But now, why shouldn't they have that favor when we put in the hard work and dedication to build that company? I'm not letting nobody tell me to hire nobody. I'm hiring the people I deem as I see fit.
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Think about it. Is that wrong?
That's the ultimate conversation right now with regard to the, like the being born on third base discussion. It's like you earned the right to do what you want to do, but the other person, the recipient, didn't earn the right to do that, and another person who did.
That's not my fault because
theoretically, that's the root of the
theoretically, Mia Glasses didn't have those. We didn't have those opportunities. We created those opportunities.
So then that brings me to this question. Do you feel like there was ever a purpose for affirmative action? Once they decided that black folks were free in this country, and they was like, okay, look, we ain't finna get in the way of y'all voting. We not gonna get in the way of nothing y'all doing. Make it happen.
Affirmative action
based off
just
your own idea.
Affirmative action ain't shit but just a way for a bunch of white folks to feel good about themselves and say they did something.
That's the honest truth.
That shit didn't make a difference, bro. People are gonna hire who the fuck they want to do. You look at the NFL, it's like 95% black as far as players, 92% black, and they had to force them to interview black coaches. Come on, man. These people are going to still hire who they want to. My thing is this: fuck them coaches. Let's talk about the ownership. How y'all didn't let Ray Lewis get a team. How all these people been trying to come in. Diddy, all these people with all the money and qualifications to run a business. They've been running multi-billion-dollar businesses their whole life.
But what if somebody brother been waiting just as long, or somebody brother? That's a white person.
But that's what I'm saying. And you know what, G? And that's why affirmative action has to be in place, because we are so fucking behind as a people.
So then shouldn't you practice it yourself by that thought?
But you know what? I do practice it because I do give a whole lot of black people opportunities.
No. Not like I'm saying. Well, I guess your son is black, so that still would be affirmative.
You know, that's my son. I wouldn't give a damn. It ain't about. I wouldn't need somebody to tell me to hire black people.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Would you be mad if Roger Goodell's brother, his younger brother, wanted to own a team, and it's a white man versus Diddy in a group of brothers? How would you feel about that?
I wouldn't give a damn.
Who should get the job? Roger Goodell brother, or should they let Diddy and them get it because of
the person that has the most? The person that has the most power can and will get that job. He can and will. He's gonna benefit. That's what I'm saying. You almost talk about an exercise of futility, bro. It's like ain't no way to fight that. You feel what I'm saying? There's no way to fight that, bro.
I do
you
know
can't
exactly
fight that because they're going to do what the fuck they want to do anyway. It's almost like me having a headache. And my thing is this. Why do we keep trying to join a fucking fraternity? Let's go. You know what I like about The Rock? What he did? The Rock said, fuck it. He went and started his own league. Started his own leagues. Not quite the NFL. They pay nowhere near as much as they do as far as salary and stuff goes. But it's another opportunity for kids to play.
Trump did too, huh? At one time.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, and see, this is the problem. It's just not the NFL. It's just corporate America's mindset, right? Corporate America's mindset is to crush the opposition at all costs and make as much money as we possibly can and keep it in-house for us. Let's keep this together for us. You think about it. Think about Ford, right? The car company, right? They own hundreds of thousands of dealerships, bro. They manufacture cars, be sold all around the world. When you go to Michigan, who do you see on their board of directors? You may see a few other names. You may see some Joneses or Thomases. Hell, my cousin's wife's dad was a big shot up there. He was a black man. Worked for them for 40, 50 years. But when it came time to sit at that main table, all fours at that table, bro, it's a ceiling. And I'm not mad at that because what I would like to see with rap television one day and digital soapbox and all this, to where everybody up there named Stills, Penniman,
sure,
all kind of people, to where Peter got a fucking niece. My whole thing is this: Peter's niece should be able to walk in our business and say, "Hey, my uncle told me to come by and see you. I'm looking for work right now. I'm going to school. No problem. Go see."
But doesn't that thought go against affirmative action at that point?
Of all this shit,
or is it okay or is it okay, Peter, because we still black? Like, does that make it okay?
What? In theory,
to
In
practice
theory,
the same behavior of the oppressor.
well, the thing is, G, we can't practice the same behaviors. Then we haven't had the same benefits that they have.
I'm saying, let's say we are benefited, right? Me and you have climbed from our family. We climbed out of poverty into middle class and wealthy status, right? Status and standards, right? Fine. We start a business and we just start hiring people that look like us or came from our family. Just a thought.
But you know what, though, G, the thought you have to put in that too is this, because this is what I didn't say on the flip side. If Chris was a damn fool, he wouldn't be working for me. Because I worked too hard for this shit to let him come in and fuck it up. I would rather just give him a check every week and just say, man, come get your check, whatever you do, just go do it.
White folks do that too.
But don't come up here no more. You feel,
we had that happen in our family.
The white folks do that too. They be like, before I let you fuck off this business, you finna just get free check.
But don't come up here fucking up. No, don't fuck it up for Jasmine and Stefan. You feel what I mean? And they kids and they children's children. Because I really want this to be something, bro, to where people can look back. Everybody else does it. Why not? See, what we need to stop doing instead of crying about somebody not letting us in their house, we need to go build our own house.
But wouldn't that go against affirmative action then at that point?
No, you know what? It's a concept that was going to never work anyway, G.
Yeah, I always say that my whole issue with affirmative action from the first day being that white women, gay people, gay folk, LGBTQ folk, all of them are part of the same thing.
That's why they keep adding on letters to that, because I could say hypothetically, oh, I'm a Q. You ever been with a man? No, but I was questioning some things. I think you should hire me. They just keep broadening the umbrella.
And it puts us further back anyway. So
Q,
I never liked, I never cared for it because you still gonna compete with white women.
Well, G, all
no one wants them around.
All this stuff does, G.
You stupid.
Is foster negative feelings towards people. It creates division.
But you don't.
I'm not gonna lie.
You don't think it's fair though if you've disenfranchised, right? If you've disenfranchised, right? If you disenfranchise a community or black folk in this country for 400 years, right? For the most part, like a group, a huge number of people, right? And you're trying to figure out how to fix it, right? But you don't actually really want to give them too much. You want to give them. Because other than that, they could just say, hey, you know what? Here's a check for all the work you did building all this America for free. We think slavery is wrong here. This makes it fair. So what you do is you create other ways to try to balance it out. But you're saying that this is not one of those ways.
It's not. And I have a way that it could work. But I'm going to tell you. See, I'm going to tell you this. Peter didn't personally do shit to us. So why should he be forced to? Well, he should be able to hire whoever the fuck he want to and do what the fuck he want to. Because if he a racist, you shouldn't want to work for that motherfucker no way. There's a million other people. You feel what I'm saying? There's a million other places to go out there. But what I'm saying is this. The American government wants to always tell somebody, they always want to make somebody pick up their tab for them fucking up. If America wanted to make this right, it would be an easy way. We are so far behind as a people, G, it's almost impossible to catch up. It's almost like somebody running a mile race, but we showing up 20 minutes late. You're not going to be able to compete. I don't care how fast you are never going to make up the time to win that race. So I think what they need to do is that they need to, and it can't be just about money, because I'm going to tell you this. If you gave every black man in this country $1 million today, there would be, I think it was something like, man, 70-80% of those people would be bankrupt a year later.
That's fine. That's their money to do what they want to with it.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But check this out. So I would say that money is just not the problem. That money needs to be coupled with education, and it needs to be coupled with a couple of different things, because a lot of people don't understand the concept of money, period. If you give the average dude $1 million right now, if you gave the average dude, if we called the Giants right now, G, and say, hey, we got a check for $1 million for y'all. Come up here and get it, right? Not saying they would do it, but the average group, they're going to go out and spend $1,010,000. They're not going to take into account to where, you know what, let me call my accountant and put that $400,000 up that they go hit my ass with. I would rather get the money back than owe it at the end of the thing. You feel what I'm saying?
A typical fortune lasts 3 generations. Anything beyond that is an anomaly. It has to do with multiple factors. And it's like the counterintuitive elements of like if you were to examine like the slavery economy in the region that it existed in, it was terrible for the economy in that region for the country. It was a poorer region of the country than the part that did not have that, because now everything becomes defined as barriers of entry and reducing competition and reducing merit-based performance and all these other things. So you come have very concentrated centers of wealth on small land, a small number of large landowners. You don't have ancillary economy around that. You don't have the ability for people to be entrepreneurs. All these like every white person who was not a wealthy landowner in the South suffered economically because of slavery. Not to the extent that slaves suffered, and that's not
Sure,
the point
sure,
I'm trying to make.
sure.
I'm just saying it's so
I
damaging.
tell people all the time. People get upset when I say this. I've heard multiple people get upset. Slavery was normal across the world, but it was how people treated their slaves in the South. It was just like a poor mentality. It's a horrible, poor, and just disenfranchised mentality. And me and Van used to always debate this, but I'm like, the problem is when you give poor people something, they don't know how to treat it. So I could imagine if it had a ton of plantations, how the areas was around it.
Yeah, and you're also choked off from any ability to like really earn any kind of money. And also it's similar to like what you see with like big tech right now, where there's such a concentration of wealth that anybody who starts to do anything gets bought out in 2 seconds. So if you have a 600-acre plantation and some farmer over here starts to get it together and whatever, and they're making some money, you're not only going to be able to buy out effective, you ready to go land, but you're also going to buy a competitor out of the way. Which is what you see, like the number of IPOs being inverted by the number of mergers and acquisitions over the last 10 years.
Sure.
And then that person's like, yeah, I got a check, woohoo, but that check's going to be gone. Your kids are not going to have that money.
You're not even going to get second generation with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say, man, I think the average person that's the entrepreneur, the real entrepreneur, he's not building something to go give away and sell. No, I'm trying to have this here. I'm trying to be that anomaly, Peter. I'm trying to be that anomaly to where you look up 3 generations from now, man. That to me, that would be just so ill, seeing somebody look like me flying a flying car, headed to the office.
Yeah.
You know, talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, and talking shit like it is. I would love
100%.
it, dude. I would love it. And to see somebody look like Glass and see somebody look like you, dude, we have to create these opportunities for ourselves, dude. I keep telling you, this is my slogan for 2022. The cavalry is not coming.
Yeah, that's powerful.
The cavalry is not coming. We need to stop sitting up here waiting. And I think that this is the African, I speak for the black race when I say this, man. We spent so much precious time arguing about who should be doing what for us when we need to get off our ass and go do it. We are very good at spending money. We spend more cash than anybody else in this world.
Yeah, I think that some of that, like I had 2 interesting, like I had 3 epiphanies or whatever. Not epiphanies, but I was thought.
We're more powerful. We're more powerful than what we display, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And like I think like people I've heard like in behind closed doors, like white people that I know own businesses have that ilk. I think a lot of the perception within Black America is like say the name prejudice on your resume. You have a very stereotypically like Black first name. Someone sees that on the resume, they discard it. This person's Black. I don't want to have a Black person here.
Sure.
It's not quite so much like, oh, I don't like them, fuck them. It's like, well, we really have to think long and hard if we want to hire this individual, because the laws, if it's not working out, are so out of favor for us to be able to just on a merit level dismiss the individual as we would dismiss another person, because they could go ahead and say, oh, well, no, you're only firing me because I'm Black. So that becomes now so much case law stacked on top of each other that now people are like, that can work against hiring as well. It's like, okay, well, a company of our size should have a minimum threshold of 8, 12, whatever the percentage is for that barrier.
We don't want to.
We are not going above that because it's too hard to get rid of people. We're going to get sued.
So what do you think, Pete, from the beginning? Like, right? I mean, I know you wasn't alive, but what do you think about the effort of or the idea of affirmative action to try to offset all of the issues that was caused to black people in America based around slavery?
I think it's more so giving a man a fish. And I think it's giving a man a fish so that you can feel good for giving him the fish, that you feel very pleased with yourself. But also at the time, a lot of this stuff happened right when a group of people became eligible to vote. So now it's like, here, I'll give you this fish, vote for me, and I'll give you another fish, and I'll give you another fish, and I'll give you another fish. And you see, maybe there aren't as many fishermen as there should be per capita.
Exactly.
So right now with it being back in what's the court called, Pete? Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Right now, so then what do you feel about it? Is it something that's a necessary thing? Like, is America getting into a space to where inclusion is just like detrimental?
You know what, bro? I think as long as you have human beings, you are going to have the ability to taint something. Even if something's meant for good, right? It's going to become corrupt because that's just who we are by nature. You know how they say self-preservation is the first law of nature? Sure. We're always in a constant state of flux, dude, where we're always trying to better ourselves. Even if it's from the most minute thing, like a smoker might be thinking like, man, I'm gonna make $60 a day so I can stay high all day. $60 to keep me high all day. So that's his motivation, right? Yeah. As crazy as this sounds, I'm always thinking, okay, how can I make more money so I can hire more people? I need to have this, I need to do this. So I'm always thinking, right? So we're always in this constant transition, bro. As long as that's going on, bro, it's needed, dude, but it's not going to work. I think the closest thing we can come to it, bro, is putting the education and cash package together and just letting people go about their business.
You think, Pete?
I think you have cultural flaws on each side. And the shortest way to fix the situation is for Black parents to be like Asian parents and just be hard fucking core. You're not going to have a good time till you're 40 and I'm 65.
I would like that. I just fear the comparableness of it. It's not really comparable.
It is.
How do you mean?
It's not. It's parents coming from trauma. It's different. You know what I mean? It's just different.
I came from trauma.
Let me ask you this. Okay. Just a basic question.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, and I also think about it, like, there's a lot of and reason to be different generations, like, because Asians didn't come here and start crushing it till like the 80s and 90s, you know, at the earliest. Well, we had just come out of 3 consecutive major wars against Asians. People didn't particularly like Asians.
Sure.
You know,
I remember reading about it.
So, like, if you're an Asian kid and you get a B+, you better be wearing a helmet. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like if you're at least to the same capacity. I know there's a lot of parents that are not fitting this description at all. I know if I brought home a B+, I was okay. That didn't serve me any because I brought home a lot of them, way too many.
I think there's an ideal, right, of what's going on today, and then the justifications needed to really. So it's not about.
Well, that's the existential question.
Go ahead.
Is justifying an action? It is a justification of an action versus a pursuit of the best action type of dilemma.
Well, I think there's that's where it gets crazy, right? And this is where I think being a part of the culture just makes it a complete different experience, right? Sure, yes, we could ask a bunch of people who are, and I get into it. This is a very serious topic too, right within the diaspora period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it somebody's fault, or is it just people just being fucked up? And it's obvious, right? If I do something specifically to a car, it'll start tearing up every other part of the car. If that part of the car is not fixed, can it be fixed personally is different. Can the trauma that Black people have been through in America unjustly be fixed by Black people? Most likely not. It's virtually impossible as a whole. But I don't think there's a whole community of anybody in this country crushing it. I just
Yeah,
think
you're
that
right.
I just think we look at it like if you specifically like black people in this country have been wrong, right? As long as you believe slavery is wrong, as long as you believe what happened is wrong, right? And like anything else, it's the person's responsibility to do their best to make it right. So, like I always tell people, like for example, anytime a rapper dies, right? Anytime a rapper dies, the first thing people talk about is, oh, he died because of this, or is a murder culture in hip hop, blah, blah, blah. It's like sometimes it's none of that. Sometimes it's just people get shot and die. This is not like this exclusive problem that happens in our community. This is happening in East LA. This happened in little Cambodia town.
Well, we talked about that earlier, bros, because those murders don't attract the social currency or
Yeah,
have
there's
social.
no social currency to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is the solution as simple as, oh, well, if black people just get their act together, everything will be fine. But how do you get your act together when it's not like
Well, I
tough
get
out?
that.
Yeah.
I think the conversation. Well, like there's the question is there's two. There's what can be done as a broader whole, not like what can be done. What is the most effective thing that can really? I think that
What, what,
question isn't asked.
well, that's why I think it gets tricky, right? Because at that point, it becomes, do you want to make it right for yourself?
And sustainably effective.
But I don't think that's the point, right? I don't think it's prime example. Like if you do something wrong to somebody, right? And you put your best foot forward, of trying to make it right. I think it's about you more than it's about the person. And I think America has done a very horrid job of trying to make it right. Versus,
Yeah.
oh, if is this going to fix the diaspora as a whole in America, the black diaspora? No, it's probably not. But it's not about is it going to fix everything? Did you do your part in what you broke? You know what I mean? Did you do your part in what you broke? And it may be a longer project. Prime example, like if I break something specifically on a car, and then it calls, like if I break a certain part of the steering, the steering equipment, and it, eventually your car breaks, your A-arm breaks, your tires rub bad because they're not correctly, they're wearing incorrectly, the fender's messed up, but then I'll just pay you for the tie rod, and the steering component that I messed up. Oh, I just broke the tie rod. No, this is what happens years and years. Once you break a tie rod, feel me, eventually the tires wear bad, the A-arm can get broke, the ground can hit the fender, knock the fender off, knock the bumper off. Feel me? You could actually get hurt in the car. You go into a barrier. So that's the problem when you start back at slavery and then you move into affirmative action. Like, is that really America putting its best foot forward to say, hey, you know what, we were wrong? I don't think so, because it became for everybody in the first place. When I don't think you could buy LGBTQ slaves, I don't think you could buy white women slaves. So if that was the idea, which I don't believe it was, I think again it became more about them. I just said this yesterday. People exert entirely too much energy into looking like a good person.
Yeah, of course.
Instead of just being a good person. So it takes a lot of energy into
Be half the good person you're trying to look like you are.
And
Yeah.
only the best evils can disguise as good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's about, when we talk about affirmative action, I don't think it's about white folk trying to like, oh, is this going to help the black community versus, hey, did you do all you can do to rectify what you feel is wrong? And if you don't feel it's wrong, if America, not white folk, but America, if America doesn't feel it's wrong, just say, hey, you know what? It ain't wrong. If you do think it's wrong and you frown upon it, put your best foot forward into correcting the mistake. That way, at least you have a clear conscience. And I think America doesn't have a clear conscience. And I think a lot of times if we start to say, so if I start to say, well, you know what, it's on the black parents to do right by their kids. That's an in culture conversation. Like, right, Pete, if I take you to the projects, we can have that conversation with the parents. But that's not an outer culture conversation. See, the outer culture conversation is about America, making it right. The inner culture conversation within ourselves is us doing like Pete, like still saying us doing the best we can, or like you said, us doing the best we can within. But then it's still a real different kind of fight because you still talking about getting. First off, my mom made me go to Paramount High School because they didn't even have AP classes to get over a 4.0. I had to go to Paramount just to have a chance to have over a 5, to have a 5.0. They didn't have AP classes at Compton or Centennial. So you're talking about, Centennial got unaccredited. Like I forgot how do you what do you call it? But like they went through a lot of shit. The education programs are not really great there. So it's not as simple as us cracking a whip on each other and be like, hey, get A's and make it work, because you're fighting the environment. You're fighting the things that's already in place.
All of this, bro, is setting a standard and an expectation. I've noticed with kids, and I swear to God, if you give your kid a standard and you set a standard for them, they won't never let you down, bro. But you can't waver in that stance. Like, I remember it would be a time, man, where, let's say Jasmine brought me a report card home. It could be all A's and that one C. She's so focused on that C, bro, that's like, how can we fix this? You feel what I'm saying? So I didn't have to yell at my kids about grades because I set a standard in the house and I made it like a challenge. Challenge yourself. Don't be just a regular, because I would take my kids places, dude, and I would show them without an education, this is going to be the type of life you're doomed to have.
But also still look at how much you conquered on your own before you had your first kid. Moving out to California from Ohio to come play football. You blessed with size, you blessed with gift, and you're a worker. So you work your ass off. You make that work, get you a college education. You realize your dream of hip hop. America is not wanting to accept, whatever they think of you as a hip hop. So you go take it around the world, and then they praise your talent and you make a living. You get into a suburban part of Los Angeles, feel me, where they have much better educational things. Mm-hmm. It changes the whole dynamic because of you, right? Whatever God put in you to make it work, and you working at it over and over again. That is not something like the slave ship didn't break everybody. It broke most people.
It didn't. And the biggest thing with us, bro, with our people, we can't be scared to fail.
No, one thing you ain't gonna do is be scared to, for sure. You gonna.
That's a part of the process. Failure is a necessary part of the process, though. If you think anybody out there that's just jumped off the porch with an idea and just went off the rip, ain't been through some shit, boy, y'all got life fucked up.
But that's what I was saying to you, Pete. Last year we was having a conversation somewhere like this, and I'm like, if you see certain people's parents, man, like certain homies, like my homies' parents, and you look at my parents, it's different. Like we starting with something totally different. Feel me? One of my homies, his mom was on drugs. My mom used to feed him. You mean, like it's a real tough out. You know what I'm saying? And I think
that begs the question. Like you say, your environment. Well, your environment is like you as a one human being individual have your environment that's around you. If you're broadening the scope to like a community, the community's environment. Well, they are the environment. They are their environment.
No, but that's my point. When you take how people got fractured along this challenge, along this journey, because people are fractured, right? They fractured coming out of slavery. Generations are fractured. You just got to believe it. It's a hard thing to believe, but if prime example, if your great grandfather removed, your great grandfather, your great grandfather, your great grandfather, your grandfather, and your father all went to the military, you're probably gonna go to the military.
For sure.
So how people deal with everything coming down the pipe is important, if that makes sense. It's important.
I'm not at all pushing back on that. Like the question, like you were using a car example. And that's, I think, half the conversation. I think the other half of the conversation is another car example. It's like a lady who doesn't have the money to get the car fixed, but has to go to work and drives the car and drives the car and drives the car. And instead of it being a small thing, now it's a very huge thing, and she can't afford to keep the car or fix the car.
Sure.
And saying, well, I had to drive because blah, blah, blah. Amidst the conversation about what are we going to do about the car and transportation. It's like you can talk about what ruined the car, but that's not going to get you to work.
But that's why I said I think these are two different conversations.
And they are.
I think there's a conversation within the community, and I think there's a conversation that America should be having about the community.
Mhm.
See, that's the trick.
The
You can
problem is
have
the
those
conversation
conversations.
America has about the community is here's the dirty, dark truth. The conversation that America has about the community is rooted purely on the fact that America thinks that the individuals that comprise that community are to this day deficient and need to be given minuscule help all the time. And if you look, we'll give them some minuscule help, they'll be better off slightly than they are, but they can only be slightly better off than they currently are. And
Sure,
that's the
sure.
problem with the conversation in the country is that the assumptive ceiling within the community is low. So we're only going to do a little bit because they're only going to be able to
Sure.
get up a little bit anyway.
That's
And
that's
that's the
that's
cancerous
that's the
conversation.
that's the left. That's the left for sure.
Well, you know what? The conversation that America needs to be having is the reparations
But
conversation.
that's my point. See, and I think Pete is different for you, right? Because you've been around, right? You've been in the community enough to have certain thoughts, right? Now, again, you're not a black person, but you've been around enough the community to know the thoughts. You can see a little bit more than most people that can come from your background can see. But I think that's the difference. I think there's two conversations that should be having. One conversation within the community is what we can do to better it. Second conversation should be had in America to what should we do to clear our conscience as much as we can of the wrong that's happened to these people. And if they feel like their conscience is clear, just say, hey, y'all on your own. Like say it so people can realize they're on their own. And whatever blowback you get, that's like if I break your car, Pete, or if I break Steele's car. And still looking at me, I'm acting like I really care about helping him fix the car because I broke it. Yeah, he driving, it's getting worse and raggedy, but it all stemmed from me breaking his car. And the whole time I'm like, look, man, I'm helping you. So I fixed the tire wearing bad, but I fixed the tire, it rag, I fixed the fender. But I never decide to actually fix the problem. I never go through everything that I know I cause this problem, but I'm stringing him along like, yeah, I'm gonna help you fix it. I'm gonna help you fix it. Versus just trying their best to fix it. Not trying to look like they're trying to help fix it, but really trying their best to be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna buy you another car, nigga. Here, boom, done.
Yeah. All the while he's waiting around and not fixing it himself because he has to commit from you to fix it.
But that's a conversation I should be having with Steele. Hey, Steele,
yeah, I'm saying like behavior.
No. I'm saying we're in the same place. I should be telling Steele, hey, Steele, you need to fix your car.
Yeah, what they're talking
that's
about.
That's something I should be telling him. Like, that motherfucker not gonna fix your car. Well, he keep telling me he gonna help me fix my car. It don't matter what that motherfucker's saying. We know how this motherfucker work. Here, I'll loan you some money, fix your car. It's tough. But to me, the conversation within the community should be about how we can make it better. The conversation about America that should be happening in America is what should we do for these people that we take advantage of? Even if the whitest white man, feel me, didn't own slaves, his family, he take advantage of all of the things that slavery built in this country.
Yeah. I mean,
so that should be a conversation Pete should be having. Because let's say Pete's family didn't own slaves. Let's say Pete's family came over here in the 1900s or 1880 after slavery. Right? Let's say Pete family came over here. Let's say Pete came over here and Pete family came in 1889 and they never owned slaves. But he understands that he's a benefactor of all the things slavery built. He should be having a conversation like, hey, y'all motherfuckers, America need to make it right because y'all fuck these people over. That's the conversation that be going on that way. And within our conversation should be like, how can we fix it amongst each other? But it should be two separate conversations happening. And the problem is they're not. There's 4 conversations happening. It's too many conversations. Is you have America trying to tell black people how to fix their own problem instead of literally saying, let me fix what I broke. And you have black people looking at America acting like they're going to do the right thing when that's something they got to work out on their own.
Well, you know what, man? I'm looking at this thing. I don't know if you guys can see this on here. I saw that on there, man. What they were pretty much saying is they think a fair number would be $151 million per person.
That's ridiculous.
That don't even.
That's such a bullshit article for so many reasons.
Yeah, and that's why I just threw it away.
Listen to what I'm saying though. Of course, it's some bullshit, right? I don't know if you can put a price on that, bro.
I mean, you have to, like any other business venture.
But for somebody to say, okay, they would get $151 million a piece,
Oh
right?
man, everybody getting 100.
I would be surprised, dude, if we wound up getting 100. To be honest with you,
100 what?
I wouldn't be surprised if they played us like that and tried to give us $100,000 a piece or something.
I mean, if literally,
It's hard to say. Like let's
yeah,
it's different because time matters. The ultimate expiring commodity in the universe is time, right? So there's a difference between me getting $100,000 over a lifetime and $100,000 tomorrow. You know, the price, the cost, everything is different. So it's like that whole conversation muddies the situation. And using, like, for example, what was 19th or 18th century agro labor fair market value globally? It was like the equivalent of 4 or 5 cents a day in today's money. Well, we're gonna use that standard of time and comp it against today's standard of time at minimum wage, and like all these various different elements that, because if you were paying all those people at that time, it wouldn't have been an economic equivalent of what today's minimum wage is. It wasn't like that anywhere in the world. There was nowhere in the world where people working on a farm anywhere had surplus capital.
shit, there's not one now.
True.
Not working on the farm.
Yeah, if you have to own it. So it's like it becomes a very, very muddied. Plus, you're talking about like population expansion. Like your great grandfather's one person, his total offspring over all those generations, like 60 people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like
if that
the math on that becomes like a really, really prolonged and convoluted standard of trying to come down with a number for that.
So, Peter, let me ask you this. You being a white man with obvious African-American friends, would it, and be honest, would it piss you off if they said next week, we sending every African-American in the country that's over the age of motherfucking 18 a check for $2 billion, right?
$2 billion.
Hold on, but listen, and everybody
fucked up.
Everybody under 18, they get $500,000. It's all tax-free, right?
You said 2 million with an M, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you said 2 billion. I was about to say, holy shit.
2 million.
We is not Ukraine.
Would you be upset? Would you feel some kind of way?
The only thing in my world that upsets me with regard to anything as far as black people go is when I think that they don't do is when they don't pursue the goal that whichever individual has to the best of their ability. That's the only thing that'll ever bother me. Like I was saying before, America looks at the group as having a very low ceiling. I do not. I could walk down to watch and look at somebody and I could feel disappointed in them. Another person, self-righteous in Manhattan or San Francisco, is going to walk down there and they're not going to look disappointed in them because that's what they expect of them. The only problem I would have if all my friends got $2 million would be the fact that I know the collateral economic damage would be severe and I don't know if we can sustain it. In a vacuum, like if there was completely hypothetically no damage.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about because that's a point I wanted to touch on. Let's talk about the possible economic ramifications of everybody. Let's say
we got to do the podcast for
hold on.
We got to control.
Let's say 60,000 people get a check for $2 million, right?
60,000.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetical, G. Let's say 60,000 people get a check for $2 million. The other ones, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna give everybody the same thing. You feel what I mean?
Yeah, $1 million times.
So just think about that. What do you think?
I was just doing the math right there. 60,000.
Is that 120 billion? That's a 1.2 trillion, or is that 12 trillion? Is that 12 trillion? No.
Well, hold on. Let me see. If it's 2 million times 6 is 12. No, 2 million times 6 is 12. 2 million times 6 is 120. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
So wait, what was it? 2 million times 60,000?
Yeah.
That's easy. That's 120 billion. But that's a chunk of money. But
Oh
the
yeah, that's far
baseline
more than
number is like
yeah.
40 million, not 60,000.
Yeah, of course. Now,
So
what kind of impact, and this is for all our people out there, right? So they can know, because I don't think people understand that, first of all, you have to have something behind that
All
much
they got
money
to
when you
do is
bring
look
it.
at what happened with EDD. If they want to know the ramifications, it wasn't nowhere near close to that. Look at where money is. Look how cheap money is now. Look how bad. Look how much everything costs now because of that.
now is a great time to have that conversation. Now is the only time in our lifetime that we can have that conversation,
To
and
have
our
something to
listeners
compare
would
to.
understand and feel and
Because
really
I'm going
understand.
to tell you, if it could pretty much turn the United States into the Philippines.
Hopefully, we become the
The
Philippines.
Philippines.
I'm feeling we'd
But
more
listen,
become like Rwanda in the 90s.
yeah, because listen to what I'm saying, bro. Think about this, right? And I would 60,000 is way too low, dog. It may be like quadruple that, But think about this, right? You got all this money out there. Everybody's spending money. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just like they had it to where, like I was talking to my therapist the other day. She was telling me the Philippines, where she comes from, they make $10 a day.
Yeah, I had a Cuban guy tell me the same thing when he trafficked out of Cuba from here.
Yeah, she told me that over in their country, a house like ours, we would probably pay $200 a month by the beach. It would be by the beach, and you can pretty much. That's why a lot of people come over here and retire and go back there to live. Their days off, because they maybe get $2,500 a month. That $2,500 a month, you may be almost in the homeless shelter out here. $2,500 a month. Over there, you can live like a king and queen.
For sure. But
And
again, like it's like the European healthcare system. Oh, well, Europe pays all your healthcare bills. Well, they don't have enough doctors because they don't get any money to be a doctor out there. And the only reason that they have that ability is because the United States economy props up their system, because we pay for all the R&D and we send them all the MRIs, and they get all that from us. That's the only reason it works, is because of our economy. Our economy has leeches all over it internationally.
Somebody got to have an asshole to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what I think would happen, to be honest with you. I think it would wind up being one of them type of situations, bro, where we wouldn't get all that money up front anyway. They would wind up telling people there would be over a certain amount of years. It would be paid over a certain amount of years.
I just think. So what we'll do is we'll do another podcast on. Let's all take a day or two to figure out. Let's take a day or two to all figure out. We take one day, still you recovering from surgery. Jazz, we take a day, we recovering from surgery. You recovering surgery. Pete, you got a day. Let's take a day to figure out realistic repair system for Black folk in America that are the descendants of slaves.
Yeah, and instead of them having
I've done an enormous amount of work on this. I'm ready to rock on this.
Okay, so we're gonna do this.
Ready to
This is
rock.
what we'll
all
do.
that happened in my lifetime. Shit.
No, we're gonna figure out amicable solutions that could happen right now. We're gonna all take a day or two, and then we're gonna convene back on the pod. We're gonna have a council. We're gonna commission the council, like the Council of Nicaea, to come up with this godly like solution for the frantic people that are apart. And this is going to be the solution to bring everybody back together. And it's going to be fair and wise, and it's going to allow America to still be America.
It's going to be a killer. I got it. I already got it. I hinted at it with that other guy a couple months ago.